Good evening, everybody. Whose idea, by the way, was it to make me follow Ruby? What? You must be kidding me. Oh, boy. Ruby, that was wonderful. And so you heard part of the story already, and you read some of the biography, and so you know a little bit about me. Five of us in our family survived the war who lived in Poland, and we were all on Schindler's List, and everyone else related to me did not survive. And the reason we survived is because we were fortunate enough to be hired by Schindler one at a time. In my case, it took quite a while. I went through all of the atrocities, the time in the ghetto and the time in the camp with this Amon Get who was with his rifle on the balcony shooting people from the balcony for sport. So I experienced all of that before I experienced somebody entirely different. When I was fortunate enough to be transferred from that camp to Schindler's company and Schindler's camp, I encountered an entirely different human being. As I said, and you saw that, he was just, you could tell he did not accept the Nazi ideology, that we were non-human. And so he treated us humanely. And when he discovered what was going to happen to us, what was awaiting us, he proceeded to spend all of the money he made to save 1,200 human beings. And you must remember that you have to judge his activities during that period in the context of the times. At the time, murdering Jews was the law of the land. Saving Jews was a very dangerous thing to do. So, you know, at risk to his own well-being, to his own life and his fortune, he still decided to do the right thing. When I heard that Mario was making a sculpture and included Schindler among those who need to be remembered, I was more than happy to come and participate. By the way, Ruby, when you went to school, that reminded me that when the Nazis first came to Krakow, I was 10 years old. And the first thing I discovered is that Jewish children were not allowed to go to school. And you know, when I first heard that at 10 years old, you probably know I thought that was okay. Yeah. Hey, no school, great. But you know, it didn't take me long, a few days, that I discovered that there was something wrong. I was not being treated equally. My friends, my Christian friends, would go off to school with their backpacks, and I knew in their spare time they would play soccer, and they would come back, and the next day they went again, and I was not allowed to do that. You know, it's one thing not to want to go to school one day because you feel like maybe you have a tummy ache or you're too lazy, but it's something else altogether when you're not allowed to go to school. That's different. And so this is how it actually began, and it just continued. It got worse and worse. That their campaign against the Jewish people continued on until, as everybody knows, it created a ghetto and forced everyone to go live there. My memory of the ghetto is that we're jammed into a very small area. We had to share rooms with other people, and there were shortages of everything. Everything you need for living. There were shortages of all these things. You don't think about it. food was the first thing. I was hungry all the time. So all I did was look around for food every day. And I never had enough to eat, but and when I ate what I had, there was nothing in sight. It's not like today when I get hungry between breakfast and lunch, and I know my refrigerator is full of food, I don't worry about it. But in those days, there wasn't anything in sight. So when my father got a job and was hired in Schindler's company, he had a permit to leave the ghetto to go to work. And so while he was there, he made contact with some of his old buddies from before the war and left some possessions that he had, his suits and things, with one of them, and periodically asked him to trade it for food. Then he would smuggle food in his pockets, pieces of food, you can't smuggle a whole lot, little pieces, potatoes, some pieces of bread, and so on. And the other thing he smuggled in, which is, you wouldn't think of it, is that in Poland, it gets cold in the wintertime. So if you want to heat your room, you have to burn something. Well, we didn't have any fuel, but the company was using fuel to melt their enamel. There was an enameling factory, so they had mountains of coal. So he used to smuggle pieces of coal in his pockets. And that was like as precious as food. So you just don't think about that when you think about shortages and hardships. But when I heard that this sculpture was being made and Schindler was part of it, I couldn't wait to come and see it. And it's a wonderful thing to have a sculpture that will last for the generations to come, that depicts human beings who did the best of things in the worst of times, which describes Schindler perfectly. The times could not have been worse. And so as far as Schindler is concerned, he left a legacy that would continue forever because he's credited with 1,200 human beings. But in reality, he saved a lot more than that. He saved all of the future generations yet to come. In my case, just as an example, I'm married. I have 2 children, grown. My daughter has 3 boys. They will be married. They'll have children. My son has a daughter, and she'll be married someday, and she'll have children. So it's one of those things that would continue forever and expanding ever more with each generation. That's the kind of legacy that he had left behind. So it's probably true what they say in the old Talmud, ancient saying says that he who saves one life saves the world entire. You save one life, you save the whole world. By the way, that's the inscription in the ring that we gave him when he departed at the end of the war. It was a ring made out of somebody's crown, and it was inscribed inside, "He who saves one life saves the world entire." It was and to have a sculptor who dedicates himself to making a monument to those people who made a difference in the past is another contribution to the future. So Mario is another person who made a difference, or making a difference, because that sculpture will last for generations and generations and generations to come. So I want to thank you very much, and thank you, Mario.